Okay, thank you. Okay, council, I'm going to call the meeting to order. That being the meeting of the regular council meeting of Warwick Township Council, April 11th, 2023. And again, the start time's at 3:30. Remind council to disclose any pecuniary interest or conflict of interest at the appropriate time. We also want to welcome everybody that's joining us on YouTube today. We also like to make an acknowledgement of the ancestral lands. We acknowledge that the land on which we are gathered here today, Township of Warwick, is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, as well as many Indigenous nations in Ontario, whose footsteps have marked them for centuries. We also wish to acknowledge that we are situated on Treaty 29 and Treaty 25 territories signed by Chippewa chiefs and offer our respect and gratitude to these lands. Next order of business is number 5, council, and that's the minutes of the previous council meeting, and that being the minutes of March 13, 2023. Did anybody have any questions or comments on those minutes? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion. Moved by Deputy Mayor Cowenberg, seconded by Councillor Manning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. And there's no business arising from those minutes, I believe, Madam Clerk. Thank you very much. And next order of business is number 7, scheduled meetings and events. So council, you see in 7A, those are the meetings that we've got coming up. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns with any of those dates? Other than maybe those that have already maybe mentioned something to the clerk? Very good. And B is other meetings and events. I know we've got some representation. 2 of our council members will be at Good Roads conference to obviously see what's maybe perhaps new coming from the province and hopefully some funding for roads, as well as our manager of Public Works, Sandra, will be there as well. Okay, very good. Let's go straight through to number 8 then, if we can, council, and that's councillors' commitments and items. Councillor Morris, start with you. Do you have anything to update us on your commitment dates?
No.
Very good. Councillor Westgate. Very good. Councillor Manning. Deputy Mayor. Very good. I don't have any as well. Let's go to councillor items if we can. I'll start with Councillor Manning, if I could, please. Deputy Mayor.
I had a call last week from just parking in front of the gazebo there on Victoria Street by the nursing home, which is, I know we had a lot of rain, but it was well flooded. Look, I drove by there tonight, actually. It looked like maybe you guys did a little bit of work there, but anyway, I just want to bring that up.
Very good. And I will maybe just let the public know we are having a little bit of a technical difficulty with some of the microphones today. So you may not hear the voices as clearly as we'd like you to hear them. But again, it's something that we hope to have resolved in the next half an hour. So it's a charging issue with our microphones. Councillor Morris.
I have 2 quick items. The first one is, I noticed in the Independent that Donnie Femia have a municipal scholarship. Does Warwick have anything like that?
No, not really.
Talk about the budget next year.
Very good. You can bring that forward, Councillor, if you wish.
And the other thing is, I got with the Easter egg hunt on Saturday, and Parks and Rec did an excellent job. I did have a comment from one lady wanting to know if we're putting the fence back up on the west side of the playground. It's come down when the Centennial Hall came down. They were concerned about kids being able to run right out into the parking lot. That's the only 2 things I had.
Okay, and I know Ryan is way over the other side of the room. So we'll try Ryan. Get your thoughts caught on this one, Michael.
Sure. And to your point, Councillor Morris, it's something that, yeah, we certainly look at. Determine sort of the best path forward in terms of fencing around the park area.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Westgate, did you have anything today? I've got a few things here, Council. If you'll bear with me for a second. First off, we were really a great night on Saturday night. The Watford Optimist Club's 50th anniversary and celebration, 50 years of service to our community. I was happy to see that all of council was in attendance. And of course, our Councillor Manning is president of the organization this time around. And I think they did an absolutely terrific job. So again, I'd just like to say one more time on behalf of council, congratulations and thank you to the Watford Optimist Club for everything you do. It's just absolutely incredible whether you look at the new boards for the arena, new splash pad, all the programs for youth, and all the things they do for our community. Again, just wanted to make note and again, thank the Watford Optimists for all they do. Absolutely terrific. Other thing I wanted to mention, we had 5 teams over the last 2 weeks participate in the OMHA playdowns out of our community, unfortunately. It's great to see those teams be able to play their playoff games back home in front of their home fans. But again, I'd just like to congratulate all of them that went on to the OMHA playdowns. One team, I believe it was U13s, won the OMHA championship. We want to congratulate them. But I also want to congratulate all the teams that took part in the local league playoffs and won the Shamrock divisions as well as the local league as well. We don't want to forget about them, and we congratulate all of the teams this year. Very successful year for East Lambton Minor Hockey. I'd also like to make note that this is a big weekend coming up in our community again. The Watford Figure Skating Club will be having their annual carnival. I believe the shows are Saturday at 1 and 7. And I know the community is always really good to come out and support that organization as well. So I'm hoping that everybody will take the time to go out and support a great organization and see a terrific show. One other thing, Council, I'd like to update everybody on the CN drainage situation at this particular time. As everybody knows, we've been trying to get CN to pay their bills, their fees for drainage services. We've been working with Plimpton, Wyoming on this for quite some time. At this point in time, we still have not seen any results or any payment from them, but we continue to work with Plimpton, Wyoming, and now other municipalities that are having the same issue with CN. And I hope to be able to have some maybe positive news in the near future. I'm trying to stay positive when it comes to this file, but at the same time, we continue to try to get them to recognize and realize that there is a Drainage Act in Ontario and they owe us $160,000 and we expect them to pay. So that's all I have, and I'll move on. Staff items. Sorry. We can, sure we can, Amanda. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to 9A, Council, which is staff items, and we're going to go on to scheduled timed events. We have Peter Pickfield here, who's our environmental lawyer, and he's also in charge of our technical review team. And Peter's here to give us an update on the RNG facility at Twin Creeks Landfill. Peter, welcome, and the floor is yours, sir. We can't hear Peter.
No, that's fine.
There we go, Peter. We got
myself. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that. So I'm here today with respect to the WM proposal for a renewable natural gas facility to be constructed on the landfill. And Council will recall just over 2 weeks ago that there was a presentation by WM on this proposal. Just to briefly refresh Council's memory, because I'm sure it's pretty clear in your mind what this involves, but essentially what it is it's a program to harvest the landfill gas and to treat the gas in a treatment plant on site, and then to redirect the gas through a metering station that Enbridge runs and into the Enbridge distribution system. So a positive project from that perspective in terms of harvesting natural gas, etc. The proposal involves a 4,000 square meter treatment plant being constructed. There's connections to the metering station and to the distribution system. And then it gets, the landfill gas gets routed through 2 large blowers, which generate some noise, but to increase gas pressure, and then it moves into a treatment process with thermal oxidizers, and then there are 2 new flares that have to also be constructed on the facility. One of the features of that's required here is something called a condensate collection system to collect liquid that's generated through the treatment process and to store it in a tank on the site. And that liquid is something that requires a little bit of extra attention because it's all of the impurities that are stripped out of the gas in liquid form, or a number of them, and it needs to be treated and disposed of carefully. And the current plan is to manage it together with the leachate treatment at the landfill. So that was one of the things that needed to be looked at. There are 3 approvals required for the facility from an environmental point of view. One is amending their waste site environmental compliance approval for changes to the landfill design and the collection system. A second approval is the industrial sewer amendment because there are going to be stormwater management issues that have to be dealt with, and the storm management system has to change. And the third is the air and noise approvals, because there are potential air and noise impacts. So, and there are other approvals that are going to be required too, including, as council is aware, there'll need to be a new cost sharing agreement, a revenue sharing agreement with WM. So WM agreed, as they're required to do under the host municipality agreement, to conduct a peer review process, to allow us to conduct a peer review process through our peer review team. They've been cooperative with us in terms of both confirming the funding for that, which was approved by WM, and agreeing to work with our team. The 4 members of our team that focused on the review were our landfill engineer, who dealt with changes to the design and operations report, and also dealt with the stormwater management issue in some detail. Our hydrogeologist, Wilf Ruland, who was looking in particular at this question of how they're going to treat and dispose of that condensate, that contaminant material that needs to be carefully looked at. And then there was our noise consultant, who looked at the noise impacts. There's going to be some new noises generated from this facility, and an air quality specialist. It was a very efficient process that took place over about 2.5-3 weeks to conduct this review. There was, first of all, an exchange of information with the peer review team. The team had a number of questions and comments. WM was cooperative in giving us the response. And then last week, we got the peer review results from the 4 consultants who reviewed it. And now you have the report in front of you. And the results of the report are summarized in the report. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I'm going to give you an overview and say, first of all, that there are no significant environmental concerns with this. They've done a fairly good job on this proposal in terms of stormwater management, in terms of dealing with the air, in particular. The air quality work was first rate, and which is an important piece of this. And the noise impacts were dealt with in a relatively satisfactory way. And the team is not anticipating significant concerns. There are always comments, and there are comments I would put into 2 categories or 2 buckets. There are some value-added comments that WM can take with them to improve the application, because there were some pieces that could be filled in better, but I wouldn't call those significant. But there were 3 areas where we had specific issues that we would like to make sure that they address. We don't think we'd have no reason to believe they won't address them, but we wanted to highlight them for WM because they weren't clearly documented in terms of how they were going to deal with them. The first issue was related to stormwater management. They were using the stormwater management work that they were doing didn't clearly demonstrate that in the critical storm events that the stormwater management pond would have enough capacity. Our eyeball of it looks like they will, but it needs to be demonstrated, and there may need to be some adjustments to the stormwater management pond to address that issue. That's issue number 1. Issue number 2 relates to noise impacts. They did a noise impact assessment. We're not seeing exceedances at the receptors, but they're using 2005 receptors. They're not using, they haven't updated it to identify and confirm that there are no other receptors. So that just needs to be done. And that's an important step, because they're going to have to demonstrate to the ministry that all of the current receptors meet the MOE guidelines. So that's the second main recommendation. And then the third main piece relates to this condensate. We have recommendations about that they need to do some pre-testing of that to make sure that they can properly dispose of it and in the leachate material. And there are a number of questions and gaps around how they're dealing with that issue. These are not deal breakers. And what we're doing in terms of our recommendation is that we're suggesting that with these reports these comments be forwarded to WM, they respond to them, and that we leave it to the township and township staff potentially, unless council wants to see it again, to just confirm that these issues have been adequately addressed. And this is a process that's worked well in the past. WM's generally been cooperative of these kinds of comments. And I think that we can probably address them pretty efficiently. So our recommendation is along those lines, that the council advised that there are no objections to the proposal, provided that those items that are identified in the report are addressed. And we're going to put together a bit of a tracking sheet so we can do it efficiently, and work with hopefully with the WM project team to just nail these things down, and then bring it back. And we could bring it back to council if council so desires, or if you wanted to expedite this part of the process, we could bring it to, you could delegate to staff. That's really your call, to making sure, working with the TRT, that the issues have been addressed to their satisfaction. So that's kind of where we are on it. And I'll open to your questions.
All right, thank you very much, Peter. Does anybody have any questions on Peter's report? There's a recommendation that goes along with the report. How does council wish to deal with the recommendation? Councillor Westgate. Moved by Councillor Westgate, seconded by Councillor Morris. Only thing we might want to address is I don't think, gentlemen, it needs to come back to us, council. I think we're good with it going back to staff. As Peter said, there's no concerns here that are deal breakers in his opinion. Are we okay with him going back through staff and finishing this up? Consensus is yes, Peter. So that works so well. So I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Very good. Well, thank you very much, Peter.
My pleasure.
Take care. I'll see you
Good luck
soon.
with the rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a good day as well.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Okay, council, the next organization, individual that's here is Ben Stott is requesting, it's a request regarding township mascots. So Ben, do you want to come up to the front here? You can come sit beside Amanda. And that way everybody will. Now, will we be able to hear Ben?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Speak into the microphone. There you go.
Hi, my name is Ben Stott, and I wish to request to be this town's mascot. I am in town, so I can go to any celebratory events here in Watford, sports games, birthday parties, conventions, that sort of thing. I already have a costume and everything at home. As for going to places outside of town, that's require some transportation, but that's all right. I'll probably come back to that. I didn't really think too much about this. Sorry about that.
It's okay, take your time.
Okay. So the mascot I have planned is a giant inflatable dinosaur suit. Some people have probably seen me walking around for the past couple of weeks in it. I go to stores, I can do basic errands with it. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me about it.
So does anybody have any questions for Ben right off the cuff here? Does anybody have any questions for Ben? So he wants to be a mascot for the community. One of those things, I guess, Ben, you'd have to work with the local organizations because I mean, we don't get involved with, the organizations out there. So you would have to be in touch with them and to make sure that, offer your services to them as well. I'm talking organizations like minor sports organizations, Girl Guides, Scouts, stuff like that. You'd have to actually have that conversation with them because it's not our job to try to point anybody, one individual towards them.
So I asked a couple of people who said to try and talk to the.
No, there's nothing wrong with talking to us, but at the same time, just to kind of let you know how.
This is more like a personal thing.
So anybody have any questions for Ben? Everybody, I think, understands what he wants to do. And he has been around town a little bit. You've been up to the new gym, I think, the new community hall. Exactly. Okay. So I guess maybe, Ben, what we can do is maybe we'll leave it to Amanda to get back to you to see maybe what needs to happen for us to be able to consider the next steps. I think there's a little bit of due diligence that needs to be done, if I can put it that way. And then we can maybe at least give you the contact names and numbers for maybe some of these organizations as well. I think that might be the best way to handle it. So is there anything else you'd like to say to council today?
Thank you for taking your time. I'll reschedule for me.
No problem, Ben. We're happy to have you and thanks very much for bringing this forward. It's always good to meet people that want to do something positive for the community. So what we'll do is we'll let Amanda stay in touch with you and we'll see what we can do. And we'll go from there. But thanks very much for coming. Very much appreciate it. No problem. Thank you.
I should have made a bit of a speech, regarding what
I think you did. I think you did a good job and you wrote something up and we appreciate that, Ben. So Amanda will be in touch and then that way you can continue having that conversation with her. Okay. So thank you very much. Oh, you're quite welcome. Okay, I think what I'm going to do, it's not quite 4 o'clock. Let's turn it back to 9A. And that's staff items. And that's a verbal update from Amanda. Notice of commencement of environmental assessment, Twin Creeks Environmental Center landfill optimization plan. Amanda, when you're ready.
Thanks, Mayor Case. Council will note that the official notice of commencement has been attached to the agenda. So this is the official notice from Twin Creeks landfill that they will be undertaking the environmental assessment when it comes to their optimization or their proposed expansion in Warwick Township. They're providing notice that they will be hosting a public information session on Wednesday, April 19th at the Twin Creek site. So that's the building to the left of the main entrance when you enter the site. And we just wanted to ensure that it was pointed out to all members of council and to our public viewers as an item of interest. Thanks, Mayor Case.
Thank you very much, Amanda. And that's from 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock that particular day. So everybody understands it's a 4-hour session, or I guess your ability to drop in over the 4 hours. And we encourage the public to go and take part in that process as well. Thank you. I think what I'm going to do, we've got a few minutes before 4 o'clock, which is a timed event, and that timed event, that's a consideration meeting of the minor drain. Let's go, if we can, council, let's go to number 11, accounts and the GL report. We'll give everybody a chance to get there. I'll ask the question. Does anybody have any questions on the GL report? Everybody's good? Okay. Let's go to accounts payable. Anybody have any questions on the accounts payable this time around? Seeing none. Well, council, I'd ask for a motion to approve both, if I could, please. Councillor Morris, Councillor Manning, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. Still got a few minutes. Let's keep moving here. On the consent agenda, number 12. A to J. Did anybody want to pull anything out of the consent agenda to specifically talk about? We do have a motion to approve them all. If there's nothing specific that anybody wants to speak to on A to J. I'll give everybody a chance to find their notes. There's something specifically they want to speak to. Otherwise, there is a motion to receive and file the bunch of them all together. Nothing? Deputy Mayor is moving, seconded by Councillor Manning. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, I think maybe what I'll do is, I'm looking at the time here. We still got 5 minutes. Let's go to number 13, reports and items requiring a motion. The first one is 13A, and it's proposed changes to the animal control services model. And there's a recommendation there. Does council have any questions, comments on that? If not, like I say, there is a recommendation. Well, how does council wish to proceed? Questions, comments? Councillor Morris?
I had a hard time finding, I didn't have the other document in front of me. What were the changes, if there was any, other than price?
Amanda?
The changes. So the changes would be service provider as well as the model associated with service provision and dog licensing in the municipality. So our current, prior to the retirement of our previous animal control officer at the Glencoe Animal Shelter, the municipality sourced that individual to provide all animal control services within the municipality. So issuing tickets, handing out dog tags, enumerating dogs every 4 years, but also providing shelter and adoption services for the municipality. Since that individual retired last year, we've had an interim service model, I'll say we've been testing, which has utilized our County of Lambton partners and their bylaw enforcement team to do all of our animal control services. So they respond to calls on an as-needed basis related to animals. And we've also explored that housing piece, that shelter piece with the Sarnia Humane Society. So there's actually a significant cost savings also with moving to that model because the Sarnia Humane Society charges on a per animal basis that's returned to them. And in the proposed model, the property owner or resident retrieving the animal that was found would pay their fee. So that's a cost not being borne by the municipality any longer. And the fee associated with the animal control officer would be on an as-needed hourly basis. So the same as our property standards contract with an hourly fee and mileage. Whereas previously we paid, and forgive me, I think it was close to $1,200 per month for animal control services. So there'll be a significant savings associated with that model. And then it also proposes a change in the licensing structure we have for dogs. So currently we provide animal or dog licensing services. Everyone's required to license their animal in Warwick Township, and then they pay an annual fee to get a dog tag. And those fees were used to offset the animal control costs associated with the Glencoe Animal Shelter. But the new model that we're proposing would be that there would no longer be any cost to anyone. We'll send out to everyone permanent tags. We think it will encourage registration because it's free and easy. So we'll be able to better track dogs, better able to find them when they go missing. And the cost will still be less though. We won't need that revenue to offset the cost of the program. So it's quite a significant change to the model.
Thank you.
Councilor Westgate.
The only thing I'm not quite sure of is our cost to the county. Before, when we had it over in Glencoe, if we had a stray cat or stray dog, they come out and picked it up. Now the county's going to be doing that, and we really don't have a price for that, do we? It would be just a cost, a time and cost plus.
Yeah.
So a great question, Councillor Westgate. And what I'll call that is the middle piece, that pickup and transportation piece is something that we are exploring with the county right now. The model that's being proposed does not have a permanent solution to this middle piece question. The county does not have the equipment necessary to pick up and transport animals. They can respond to calls, they can do investigations with Lambton Public Health, they can issue tickets, but they can't transport a stray animal, unlike the Glencoe Animal Shelter. So we've requested them to look at providing that service to lower tier municipalities. That, of course, won't, I would anticipate, be considered seriously until the next budget. They would have to acquire equipment if that was something they wish to pursue. But we do have available to us a fee for service through another private entity, which only does that. And the fee for service is nominal in comparison to the fee we had. So I think right now we're in a transition period where we don't have a set contract for that pickup service. I want to say it's has been not used very often, but when it is needed, it's needed. So we have a gap measure in place at this time.
Right now, we're using that fee for service,
Yes.
and right now they are going to Sarnia, right? They have been for the last year,
Yes.
so this is really continuing what we've been doing for the last year.
It is continuing what we've been doing as a test for the last year. Yes.
except for the paying for licenses.
Except for the paying for licenses, yes.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments? Again, there is a recommendation before you. How does council wish to deal with the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Morris. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Kellenberg. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, council, I'm going to take us back on the agenda again. I'm going to take us back to 10C. And that's a consideration meeting for the minor drain 2023. I see Mike is with us. Mike, you want to come up, please, to the front? That would be great. Wait till Mike gets up front and then we'll continue on. Okay, the next order of business, council, is to proceed into the consideration of the drainage report for the minor drain 2023. Any petitioner has the right to withdraw from the petition. Does anyone wish to withdraw? See, nobody wishes to withdraw. Any other owners in the area requiring drainage have the right to sign the petition. Does anyone wish to sign the petition? I see no one. Mike DeVos of Spreets and Associates, will you please explain your reports? Mike?
Thank you. Good evening. The report before you was prepared in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act, which is for repair and improvement to the existing minor drain. It is a fairly large drain that was constructed. The last time it was constructed through a report was 1954. There may have been maintenance done after that point in time. But the landowners in the upper reaches of the watershed have requested that a new improvement be completed by installing 18 and 21-inch diameter pipe adjacent to the channel, and that the channel be backfilled and overflow swale created beside it. It includes some catch basins, removal of the existing culverts, and improvement of the road crossing at the very upper end. So by doing this, it'll be a closed system that is croppable and functional for the landowners. And I'd stop and open up the questions.
All right, Andrew Maver, our drainage superintendent, do you have any questions or comments?
There is one very minor modification, the tile that's shown on the Pins property between station 0+545 and 0+734 will be on the west side of the ditch. I just want to make that note for Mr. Beans, as he's made that request.
All right, thank you very much, Andrew. Does anybody else present wish to ask any questions or make any comments? Anybody? No? Okay. Council, have any questions, comments? Seeing none. So if the report is approved, the bylaw will be given first and second reading later in the meeting. And thank you very much for everybody for attending. Thank you. We'll move. Okay. So the next order of business for us, council, is procedures for the court of revision. So can I have a motion that Warwick Township Council proceed into the court of revision for the Wolvet Drain 2022 bylaw number 16 of 2023? Councilor Morris and Councilor Westgate. Everybody's in favor? Carried. Thank you. Have any written appeals been received? Madam Clerk?
No.
No. Does anyone present have any verbal appeals? Anyone at all? Okay. Andrew, do you have any comments?
Done.
No comments? Since there are no appeals filed, the following resolution is to be passed. Motion that the court of revision for the Wolvet Drain 2022 bylaw number 16 of 2023 be closed without changes. The report, and then we'll go back to open sessions. We'll go back to open council. Thank you very much. Need a motion? These are items 13B. We're going back to 13B, and these are items requiring a motion. So we're at development charges, and we need a motion to lift from the table to further discuss. Who would like to make the motion to lift from the table? Councillor Morris. And seconded by Councillor Manning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. So, council, we're back at this one again. And the information is there. How does council wish to proceed with this particular item? We're going to take a few seconds here and see if we get the microphones going. There might be some discussion on this one. So staff, yep. See if we can get these mics working again. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions or comments on this particular item? Councillor Morris.
I haven't changed my opinion. I'm still against the developing charges. I've done a lot of thinking about it, and right now we're charging for the sewer, we're charging for the water. I've had some calls on this for explanations that I can't give, whether it affects agricultural buildings, if somebody wants to build a chicken barn or not. There's a lot of information I don't know to approve this as written.
Thank you, Councillor. Did anybody want to speak to that question on agricultural dwellings and how it affects that? Trevor, please.
There I am. Okay. I apologize. Essentially, any building is going to be charged a fee depending on the size of the building. There is a second rate schedule in the guide that was provided, whereby it's based on square footage for industrial and commercial properties. I believe, and I can't remember how it's written, but I believe agricultural buildings were scoped out and made exempt. But I'd have to go back and take a look. And if they weren't, council can pass that motion that agricultural buildings are scoped out.
Thank you, Mr. Jared. Anybody else have any questions or comments about this particular item? Deputy Mayor.
I'm gonna kind of disagree with Wayne. I think we need to put these charges in because it allows us to funnel funds where we need the funds versus into the way it's currently being done. I guess, like I said, the last time we met, I don't necessarily feel that the percentage is the right one. But I think we need to do that. At the end of the day, if they're only hooking up a water line or a sewer, it's one fee, not the whole charge. And they should be the same or proportionate as reflected to what job's being done. But I have a percentage in mind, but yeah, that's up for discussion yet.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Westgate.
Well, I've been against these fees for a long time, but the way it's written up here, where you have the water fees and the sewer fees into this makes a big difference. Because it's not like we're putting an extra 20 or 30,000 on each house. And like John says, it does enable us to take that money from the water funds and use it in other places. Now, we probably need it in the water funds and the sewer funds anyway, but we do have the right to do that. I agree with John. I think maybe it's a little high. It's going to put us above the rest for a while until they catch up. Like I say, when we were looking for land for construction before, when my previous life, development fees were a big thing. You went for the place where they were less. Of course, that's when they were just coming out. So I agree, maybe we should have the development fees, but maybe a little less than what we're talking now.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Manning.
So yeah, I'm
originally I was kind of on both sides of the fence on this one, and right now I'm definitely leaning more towards the Counselor Westgate and Counselor Callenberg's views. I definitely agree with the percentage should be lower. I think it's something we got to ease into. We don't want to discourage development, and I definitely don't want to be someone that stands in the way of discouraging or stands in the way of development. But I also don't believe that the ratepayers should be on the hook for developers coming into this community. We're getting a lot of outside developers coming in, as opposed to in the past, a lot of individuals coming in and building houses. We're starting to get more bigger pieces. And I believe in the report, it says something about the houses will sell at market value regardless of the DCs applied. So I really, at the end of the day, I believe the developers will be the one cashing in and our ratepayers swallowing the costs. And I don't agree with that. But I do agree with Councilor Morris's view that agriculture should be exempt, especially in farm building, because again, that comes down to our ratepayers directly. And that's something we definitely don't want to discourage. And so right now I would sit, as long as we could have maybe a view of a lower percentage, as well as make sure that agriculture is exempt. I would agree with the way it is.
Councilor Morris.
After listening to the rest of council, I can understand their point. I can live with what they're saying. The one that bothers me the most, I think, is the park and recreation services. It's a very large number. I don't want the people of this community to think that development charges are paying for the new building. I think there should be something there, but I think the number is really high for my liking.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Jarrett, did you want to make a comment, not to put you on the spot?
Just two things. I had Ken point out that in the document written, non-residential agricultural buildings are scoped out of the document, so they will not be charged. It's a definite. In terms of the recreation charges, it's not the cost of construction, it's the cost of maintenance going forward and replacement for going future. To replace an asset like that would be $11 million. To replace an arena or a twin arena, you're probably looking double that. That's where those funds would go, and they'd sit in a reserve account for that, or to implement some sort of package in order to enhance the lifestyle or the amenities for all residents in the community. And you don't want to burden the existing taxpayers to do it. Outside of that, in terms of a ratio, the PowerPoint presentation I put in showed that if we had accelerated what we have in place just by CPI, we'd be higher than what we were right now. So I don't know what ratio I want to go with. I'm not tied to anything. It's up to council. End of the day, I think we need them so that we're setting on a fair playing field for the residents that are here relative to those that are coming to the community, and we can continue to grow. We've got a huge outlay in the next few years with roads, particularly. If we had development charges in years past, we'd be able to take reserve money from a road reserve. Right now, we're caught because we don't have that flexibility. This will provide us a greater flexibility that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jarrett. Deputy Mayor.
Just for clarification, so if there was a barn built that tied into municipal water, they would still be charged a water hookup fee, correct, under the old schedule? The new one, if it's just water hookup.
It would be up to the discretion of council. Council can tell me to take that out. Right now, they would not be charged.
Under the old system, it would be charged. But if we switch to this new one, then it would not be charged. So they'd be 100% exempt. And I guess I have an issue with that because they're tying into a water line versus digging a well. So
It can be scoped back in. That's what it comes down to. It's your call.
Councilor Westgate.
Did we not talk before for a lot in town that's already serviced with the water line, that they would still have to pay for the hookup?
Yes, a lot in town. This is a
So
farm
the same would have to be in the rural area. That the water line went through, I know they've already paid for it to go by, but the hookup, they would still have to pay.
For a residential unit, yes. For a non-residential agricultural building, direction would be appreciated.
Wait, yeah.
Thanks, Trevor. Just further to that, for clarity, whether it's in the urban area or the rural area, the current fee structure sees a water charge hookup fee being charged when anyone new is hooking up to the water system. We do have records in the rural area, but who paid frontage? So there were two fees previously, frontage and a hookup fee. So in some cases, the frontage fee has already been paid for properties. So we would just charge the hookup fee, but regardless of whether development fees are approved or not, a connection fee would still be charged.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Anybody else? Yes, Councillor Manning.
So just under my understanding on that, I guess the hard part I'd have with any of that is going forward, I'd want agriculture to be exempt with any new application, but I think the hardest part is introducing something new to the people with new prices and all that. But if we could keep the system that's in place, but only apply the exemption to the new applications, I would be a lot more comfortable with that. And
Jarrett?
I'm a little confused. Sorry.
sorry, I was a little confusing on that. So I guess it's if they're already paying for water hookup, but we keep the development cost just to something new, but keep the old way still there for exemptions.
That's
Rather
how,
than having 100% exemption on the.
that's how it's structured right now. For
Sorry, I was under-
infill lots, that's how it would be done, and for anything.
I was under the impression under that if with the new system that they would be, if we were to say an exemption for agriculture, they'd be 100% exempt on everything.
Councillor Westgate.
In the rural area, we would still charge for residential, but not for a pig barn or agricultural. So
Do we charge now?
Yes.
So I think the intent is that would remain the same. That would remain the same. It's to be consistent, to be fair with everybody with this process. I think that is what we have in front of us. That would continue, that would remain. I think what I'm hearing, and I haven't stated anything on this particular topic myself. I'll be honest, I'm for the development charges. I actually talked to one of our developers here. And I think that individual has spoken to most people on council, and that developer actually thinks development charges are a positive thing and are a good thing because it puts money back into the infrastructure that's needed to be able to grow a community. And it's not on the back financially of the people that live here, the ratepayers, as Councillor Manning mentioned in his comments. So I think really where we're at, council, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like we're supportive of this from the discussion I'm seeing, but it's trying to find the number. We're supportive. I mean, Mr. Jarrett's report outlines his thoughts. He's done his homework on the current state of affair of cost of things today. And now it's up to us to determine whether we want to go with that or we want a lesser amount. So, I mean, it's up to council to decide what they want to do. And if there's any more clarity, this is a big subject. We can also ask the questions. How does council wish to move forward on this?
I would like to make a motion. We move forward on it, but at an increase of 12%, not 14%. And I'm opposed to discussion about. Not opposed to discussion about it.
I wish I could have done it a long time ago and got away with that one. So everybody's clear. Ken, did you have a comment? You don't have a microphone on. You want to pop up? So Ken, the chief planner from the county of Lambton, is going to come forward, and he has a comment he wishes to make. Ken, the floor is yours.
New job title. I appreciate that. Let the record show. Thank you, your worship. Just my only comment to you would be for council to just keep in mind that any changes that you make to the formula, you're already going to be discounted as a result of Bill 23. So the province has made it very clear that any municipality that's adopting development charges, you only get to collect 80 cents on the dollar starting in year 1, 85 cents in year 2, 90 cents in year 3, 95 in year 4, and then at year 5, you get 100%. So keep in mind that if you start discounting your rates, they're discounting it for you already. So you're actually creating an intensification of that discount. That's all I wanted to add, your worship.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a seconder to that motion to continue on with discussion? The motion is to go with 12% made by Deputy Mayor Kallenberg and instead of the 14, which is outlined in Mr. Jarrett's report. Councillor Westgate, seconded by Councillor Westgate. Okay, further discussion on this issue. Councillor Morris.
I have one question. I guess Ken already stepped away from the table. Let's assume there's a new severance in Rule. Now, they would pay everything except the wastewater services. Am I correct?
Ken?
Through your worship, that would be my understanding of how
Okay.
it's, to be honest, I've not been involved in the creation of the piece. So
All
I'm
right.
gonna have to look to Mr. Jarrett perhaps.
All right.
Mr. Jarrett, maybe? Perhaps you could fill us in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Everybody's clear on the motion? It's the exact same layout that Mr. Jarrett's put together, but instead of at 14, it's a 12. Yes, yes, Amanda.
Thanks, Mayor Case. Just a clarity question for administration, if it's approved, is the 12% you're proposing, so the increase would be 12% in year one as opposed to the proposed 14. And then the escalation over the 5-year period would continue to be phased in up to 100% or 5%. So you'll be, okay, got it. Thank you.
So Councillor Kallenberg has stated that's correct. Anybody else? Any further questions or comments on this particular item? Motion is on the floor. I have one question. And I guess it is, what are we really saving going to 12 to 14%? I don't have a problem with doing it. I mean, it's an expensive bill for some folks, the developers out there, but what are we saving, Mr. Jarrett? And I hate to put you on the spot, just to get a dollar value of what we're really saving, the 2%. Is it $400, John?
$408.
$480 a year
per
Okay.
house.
per household.
That's built.
Okay, Councillor Westgate.
It's not that we're saving that 400, it's gonna be that we're lower than our neighbors.
No, very good, very good. I do know that these other municipalities out there are in the process of looking at their situations right now as well. And I also take note of Ken's comments about Bill 23 as well, which is going to be something that's going to be thrown at it. It has been thrown at us whether we like it or not. But anyways, everybody's clear? Any further discussion on this one? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on to 13C. And that's the Canada Day Partnership 2023 funding request. This is with the Conservation Authority. And it looks like they're asking for another $1,500. How does council wish to deal with that? There's a recommendation here before us. Councillor Morris?
I have a quick question. How much does the conservation area itself put into these fireworks, like from their campers and stuff?
Does anybody know the answer to that particular question? It used to be, I think they put in 2/3. Don't quote me on that. And we were putting in 1/3 basically, but that's going back quite a few years ago when we started doing this. I'm not sure exactly what that is at this particular time. Does anybody else?
I should know, but I don't.
Yeah, I think it used to be like a 2/3 to we put in 1/3, but don't quote me on that now. So I'm not really sure. Yes, absolutely do. Ryan, you don't know, do you?
I don't know the specific amount, but I do know that they're putting in double this amount into just the fireworks alone.
That's still close.
I make a motion to accept the recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Westgate. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Kallenberg,
I'll move we accept the proposal as recommended. It's been a good program.
led by Councillor Manning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And then we go to E, It's the old Fire Hall Museum. And that's the painting. And there's a recommendation there. Does council have any questions or comments on this particular item of painting the hall? And there is a recommendation there. Yes, council.
I make a recommendation or a motion that we accept the recommendation, please.
Seconder to that. Councillor Manning, any further discussion? Councillor, pardon me, Deputy Mayor Kallenberg.
Maybe it's not the proper time for this, but just, is this considered a heritage building? No, okay. I just read an article about heritage buildings going on, so, okay.
Councillor Manning, did you have a question or comment? I'm sorry. No, anybody else? Yeah, Councillor Westgate.
Exactly what are they painting? The metal and the whole tower at the top, the wood and the metal? And just the outside?
Yes, through you, Mayor Case, Councillor Westgate. The work includes the painting of the tower, the hose tower on the outside, the exterior, both the woodwork and the metal work. The project also includes, through the same contractor, some repairs to the woodwork as well.
Yes, Councillor Morris.
I've asked Ryan this before, but I just want to reconfirm. This will be all done by the 150 anniversary?
Yes, and that has been confirmed by the contractor that should we move forward today, meeting that timeline of our 150th celebrations can be achieved through this contractor.
Okay, anybody else? Any other questions or comments? There's a recommendation before us. How does council wish to do with the recommendation? Deputy Mayor, moving, seconded by Councillor Manning. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, the next order of business is F, 13F. And that's the tennis and sport court color schemes. This is a recommendation by the Recreation Board. And the recommendation is to go dark blue and medium green. How does council wish to do with this recommendation? Councillor Westgate.
Also moved.
Moved by Councillor Westgate. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Kallenberg. Any further discussion on this one, gang? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, let's go to G if we can. And this is the Burnham Line rehabilitation update. And there's a recommendation there as well. I imagine there may be a question or two on this one. I'm assuming. Anybody have any questions on this one? Maybe not. Yes, Councillor Morris.
Well, I'd like to hear Andrew's opinion on what he thinks is going to be best. It just seems like between Zion and this, we're doing a lot of patchwork. I know the monies aren't there to do the whole paving, but what do you think is the best move, Andrew?
Thanks, Councillor Morris. Great question. I think in this particular case, which is not entirely the same as the Zion line case, I think patchwork, as identified in the report, wouldn't really be a feasible solution. We may be back fixing it in 1, 2, 3 years. So that solution doesn't seem very economical. So as the different options outline, it's really up to council discretion. You could do one section of a pave or sort of pulverize and pave. And that's pretty well what you're limited to, like one section of road within the same budget. So if you want to stay within the same budget, 2023, you'd be doing essentially one section plus maybe a little bit of dyna patching in other areas. But that's more or less kind of your options. Do nothing this year. You know, of course, there's always the option of doing what was initially recommended, which personally I wouldn't do, and then pulverizing and pave of one road section. I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Andrew. Anybody else have any questions? Councillor Westgate.
Well, I think if we're going to do anything, we should smash it up and pave it. So we should do at least the first section. I wonder if we could get prices for the second section, like in two, like if we could get the second section done with the same. Yes.
Andrew, did you want to comment on that?
So just to be clear, they'd be submitting a price for kind of a phased approach. Phase one being,
From
you know, these months.
Yeah,
And then they would we would have to honor their price early next year as soon as the plant's open kind of thing.
right. If it would save us, it may not save us anything, I don't know.
Chris, would you like to come up to the front,
Yes.
please? So we're going to bring Chris Thurman from Spreets up front to help us with this one. Okay. So maybe Chris should give us your opinion, your viewpoint of that particular suggestion by Councillor Westgate, if he's so kind.
So just to summarize, how we got to this situation, we had prepared a report 3 years ago. 2020 report, asphalt road study report. Several roadways included works proposed in a 1 to 3 year timeframe. This was one of them. Burnham line, I believe, had 5 road sections. Each one's essentially a concession of various stages of rehabilitation that was deemed appropriate at the time. Warwick had notified us early this year, late January, I believe, that it was a go. At which point we investigated these 5 specific blocks. And then the rate of deterioration was extreme. Certainly not what we would have envisioned in a 3 year time frame at all. So at that point, based on our new appraisal, we prepared an email to Andrew, essentially saying the works we had proposed in 2020 for the bulk of the road sections are not applicable at all. It essentially, as Andrew has said, would be a Band-Aid, to be fair. So we did provide 3 or 4 options in there, everything from possibly do nothing to various options in various blocks that would adequately restore Burnham line while keeping in mind the amount you had dedicated for this year. I believe it was around 573,000. To stick with that, Burnham line, section 01 in our report is the first one. And we recommended it. It's almost exactly to that amount in our current estimate, with the pulverize and overlay with 2 lifts of asphalt. That is the best option. It's not a Band-Aid, but it only addresses 1 block of Burnham line as opposed to 5. With regard to tendering it for doing Burnham 2 next year, if it's Burnham section 02 next year at an assumed similar price, it can be tendered that way. We can tender it any way we wish. Contractors would have to abide by that cost for the second year works.
I'm not sure I want them, what I would like is to get it in 2 spots. We do the first one, and if the price is low enough, we decide we want to go on with to the next side road. Instead of doing it next year, we just have to borrow the money for 6 months or 3 months, and it's on next year's budget. But we could do like from Ellerton to Warwick Village Road that way.
Totally new.
Totally new, unless the price is way out of line. But I agree, we have to do the first one, Forest Road to Elkton.
I'm just going to ask our treasurer from a financial standpoint, if that's doable this year and how that would look on our budget. Mr. Jarrett.
We would be drawing from reserves to do it. I'd probably do a transfer from one reserve to another one reserve fund and pay interest on it. The question would then be if that is the best solution. And before I do that, I do have a question for Chris, and that is whether or not we should do a full report of the entire road to find out exactly what the cost would be across, to see whether or not, if we're going to be doing it all, should we be budgeting for it all in a future year as a one-time thing, rather than if we do section by section, we still have the same level of traffic going down there? Are we going to deteriorate what's not done and also deteriorate the new part to the point? Are we better off going as one selection?
It's a great question. There's no doubt. As I said a few minutes ago, we did revisit Burnham Line only this year. For the 5 sections that were noted to go to construction or to tender and then ultimate construction. We looked at all Burnham line sections, to be fair, instead of just the 5. We have not revisited all asphalt roadways in the town this year. We certainly can. I believe it's about 88 kilometers of asphalt roads. So what we assessed in our March 2023 in preparation for this tender was roughly 9 sections, let's say 2 kilometers each, maybe 18 kilometers we've assessed so far of 88. So that would essentially leave another 70 if we're going to address them all. It certainly can be done. You know, the reporting and the assessment that we do is what we believe is typical in, well, southwestern Ontario for sure. We're preparing a bid for another township as we speak, and they're quite similar in the scope. It's essentially a visual inspection, timely, and you know, it takes time. We essentially drive each section 3 times, if not 5. Once at the posted speed for drivability and visuals. Then we go a little bit slower the second time, looking for cracks. We get out of the car, we take our measurements, we take our photos, and the third time is essentially to drive it again, to reassess. We evaluate, we rate on 10 different items. It does take time. We have all the measurements, so we certainly don't need measurements again. But it's the deterioration in the varying stages that takes time to document. Then you have to look at 88 kilometers. Minus perhaps the 18 we did, and look at what's happened to those since our last visual. Our last report was a 2020 report. We drove the site in March 2020. It's now April 2023. Burnham Line has deteriorated drastically. I can't comment on the rest. I did drive Confederation Line before the meeting and it looked great. So that's 11K off the list, perhaps. But it is, that was the west of Nauvoo. So it can be done, and it's a valid question, because we're talking about Burnham Line right now for 9 sections, if not the main 5, and we're only doing 1. It certainly is a great recommendation to do to assess the entirety of it. 88 kilometers of asphalt roads. What's the status of the rest? We can certainly do that.
Well, I guess my opinion is, I mean, after seeing what just happened, we just went through the budget process. We put a price tag on fixing this road, and literally 2 months later, we find out it's going to be an awful lot more. So maybe we really need an up-to-date study on our hard surface roads. I know that comes with a price tag as well. So it'd be good to get a budget for that to bring back to a future council meeting for council's consideration. And then we know exactly what we're looking at. It was a good question that Mr. Jarrett asked. So I would leave it at that, council, unless somebody wants to speak to that piece more so. It would make sense if we get a report back with the costs, and then council can consider whether they want to do that or not. Anybody else? Anybody disagree with that? Everybody good with that? Okay. Councillor Westgate.
I think we really know what the rest of the roads, they're either bad or like Confetta's good. We know that. Burnham's gonna need work. And what's the other paved road? Brickyard's gonna need work. But we should do this one first, shouldn't we? It's in the worst shape. If we did the first 2 sections this year, we'd have money in the budget for another year to finish it off, probably.
Yeah, I would agree that Burnham is in fairly poor shape. Yeah, and by starting off, I don't see the fall in knocking off a section this year. Of course, there may be some savings if you did it all at once next year, but you know, that's hard to say. So I agree. I think that would be a good option, getting one section completed.
Okay, so we're back talking about Burnham again. But when we're talking about the rest of the hard surface roads, I think it would be good to get that study done. We can talk about it at the next council meeting when we get a report, because again, it's the cost of things, which is really changing things for us. I mean, if this would have come in on budget, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So it's a matter of the escalating costs, inflation, materials. It would be good to get a good idea of what our situation is and what it's like. As Councillor Westgate said, you can, you know, obviously we know the roads that need attention, but we obviously don't know the price tag, and we need to get some accurate costing on some of these for sure, but we can bring that back next time. So going back to G and going back to Burnham, what's council's direction to staff, if any, at this time? I'm moving forward. I know Councillor Westgate has made a suggestion. I guess I'm wondering where council wants to go on this particular item. Councillor Manning.
I kind of in favor with Councillor Westgate's suggestion. I'm not a fan of the Band-Aid solution. I think you're just throwing money in the wind, honestly. You're just taking care of it now, and then it's going to double in price. Like, and in this day and age, inflation's only going up. So the more we sit around, the more it's going to go up. And honestly, if we got to take something out of reserves that we know we can make up for in the next budget, I'm fairly comfortable with that, because I think if we sit around too long, especially with Band-Aid solutions, it's only going to get worse as we go.
You, Councillor Manning. Councillor Morse.
Just so I understand here, so we're talking about doing the one chunk from Forest Road to Ellerton, totally redoing. And then the discussion is whether to do the second chunk this year and take the money from reserves. Is that what I'm understanding?
I believe so. I'll turn it back to Councillor Westgate because it was his suggestion.
I think it's more to get a price on it, on the second
Okay.
piece. If it fits within our budget, we can make it work. Then we can do the two sections, but we'll do the one for sure.
Okay.
That would be an option to do the second section within that quote. I would think that's how we'd word it. Am I correct, gentlemen? With an option to do the second piece?
Yep, I think so. It could, the recommendation could be alternative to, actually is stated in the report, from, which is section Burnham 01, Forest Road to Ellerton Road, with a provision of doing the second section as well, putting in a price at least.
Okay. Any more discussion or any other opinions out there, council? So I don't have a motion on the floor quite yet for that. Does somebody wish to make a motion? Councillor Westgate.
Chris, is that going to hurt our prices? It wouldn't, would it?
If you're gonna essentially double the scope of a job, inherently it would lower your price because it's a bigger job. If people are looking for work, you know, it's still only early April, but we would like to tender this sooner while, you know, people are still trying to line up their crews and dedicate their forces in quantity. So the larger a job is, you typically see a reduction. I'm just wrapping my head around essentially a $550,000-$600,000 Burnham 01 phase, and I've got a provisional item that we may or may not do that's almost an equal value. I've done a lot of tenders in my time. This is a bit of a different element. I may have to wrap my head around it, but we can certainly do the tender that way. It'll be clearly listed in the form of tender. It'll be clearly listed in the special provisions that Warwick's full intent is to award section 1. An award of section 2 clearly depends on the submitted price and budget approval. I can prepare it that way for sure. And I would suggest you will get a better price. I don't know how much prices fluctuate for asphalt. This isn't a typical general contractor job. This is an isolated asphalt crew. This isn't your typical large excavation. This is a pulverizing machine with an asphalt overlay of 2 lifts. So it's a bit of an isolated crew. I can only assume they're lining up work, but if that's the direction that's given, we can certainly prepare the tender that way.
Because all you're really saving is to move on and off. All you're really saving by doing the extra is the move on and off site.
Potentially, that is true. You wouldn't have a double mobilization, demobilization, and the crew is here for, say, 10 weeks instead of 5. There are inherent savings in that. The cost for the aggregate and the emulsion and the asphalt, I'm not sure how much that would truly go down. I mean, if you're talking just mobilization of 3 different crews and then they park on the side of the road every night, you know, you might be $5,000 or $10,000. You know, if it was 20, I'd be surprised. So I don't think we're looking at a big savings on mobilization, to be fair, when we're talking 600,000 and maybe another 4 or 5. But I really have to wrap my head around this tender, because if we take the second part out, they've already bid it with mobilization. You know, once, if we take it out, I guess they're here once, so maybe it's irrelevant. I've got to wrap my head around it. This is a tender that's a bit different. This isn't a big tender for us to get out in terms of engineering time. There is no survey of the site per se. It's not our typical plan and profile drawings. It's essentially those colored up schematics we provided, and like we did for Zion. It can be that easy. It doesn't need to be a make work project for Spreet. But I will definitely prepare the tender. I would probably suggest I'll give it to Andrew and perhaps Trevor to review, just to make sure I've covered the bases, because we are talking about a fairly large, costly provisional item when there really are only 2 items. It's this block and this block.
I just wonder, perhaps it makes a lot of sense to do it that way in some ways, but in other ways, I wonder if we're overcomplicating it for the contractors, in the sense that it shouldn't be overcomplicated, in the sense it's pretty simple. It's 1 or 2. But at the same time, I wonder if this works as a disadvantage against us by doubling the work. I'm just not sure. I mean, I guess we're all wondering the same thing. It'd be great if it was some savings, as Councillor Westgate has suggested. Maybe there might be. But at the same time, I'm just wondering if it overcomplicates things, but I'm not really sure. It sounds like perhaps it doesn't, but even you're saying that this is a little different animal than what you've dealt with in the past. So that's just my comments on it. We definitely got to get moving on that road. That road does need some attention, and I agree with that. So, okay. How does council wish to move on this particular item? I don't think there's a motion on the floor yet. We've been at this one for a while. We can take more time, or we can come back to it another time. How does council wish to deal with this? We are losing time, I guess, in the sense of the season of construction is already upon us. How does council wish to move forward? Westgate.
I'll make the motion that we go ahead with the first section for sure and get a price for the second section.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that motion.
Councillor Morris. Okay, clarification for staff. Any other clarification needed for staff on this particular motion, or is it clear? It's clear? Very good. Any other question? Sorry? Yes, Trevor.
Do we wish to have Sprees come back with an estimate for all hard surface roads?
I think what we'll do is if council's okay with it, let's deal with that maybe at our next meeting. Everybody's nodding their head. Yes. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I guess I would like to know what this road study is going to cost us. It's all money.
That's part of a report that would come back to us. Again, that's my question as well, Deputy Mayor. So maybe what we can do is we can have this on the agenda for the next meeting. I saw everybody nodding, and we'll go from there. So everybody's clear on the motion? All in favor of that motion? That is carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we go to H, and that's the culverts, 1460 and 62 rehabilitation 2023. There's a recommendation there. How does council wish to deal with that recommendation for Van Drill excavating at a cost of 161,077.23 plus HST? How does council wish to deal with that recommendation? Councillor Morris, moving it?
Yes, I make a motion to move that recommendation.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Manning. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And let's go to the industrial road extension. That's I, pardon me. And there's a recommendation there as well. for a tender to be awarded to Gillier at $230,864.44. How does council wish to deal with this recommendation? Questions, comments? Councillor Morris?
I move the recommendation. We're kind of obligated to do this under our contract, so I think we need to move forward.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Kallenberg. Any further discussion or questions on this particular item? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, let's go to J. That's action correspondence. We have 3 items of action correspondence before us tonight. First one is 0469. I'll name them out, and if anybody wishes to make a motion, they can. The next one is 04-70. This particular one is an interesting one. And this is ARs, and it's the Enbridge charging for locates. And this one here, I don't agree with this. I don't think they should be able to charge this. I know talking to the mayor of Don Euphemia, for which Enbridge has a huge part of their operation. He was telling me the other day that they've made it very clear to them if they follow through with this, then they're going to start charging them for using their roads in some cases, some of the services they provide to them, being that they're the host community. I know that a lot of the mayors that I've talked to are definitely against this fee of $200. And I just wonder, I mean, where we stand on it. We don't have to take action, but it's something I'd like to see us support. I'm not sure where council is on this. Councillor Westgate?
Well, if we have to pay $200 for every time that they come out and do a locate, it's gonna cost us a lot, because every time we dig up a water line, we dig up a sewer line, or change the street, put a curb in, sidewalk in, we need to have locates. So I can't imagine how many times we have them out to do a locate, probably 20 times a year would not cover it.
Well, the examples in the report, when you read it, were absolutely amazing. You talk about the multiple charges, and they were the multi-thousands of dollars for a lot of municipalities. And again, they haven't done it. And like I say, in talking to my colleagues at county council, there wasn't a mayor there that thought this was a good thing by any means. And as I say, Mayor Broad said he's already spoke to them and said, if you're going to do this, you're going to put this in place, we're going to change some bylaws for which we're going to start penalizing you for certain things. Now, they are host to that operation in their community. So anyways, I just wanted to make my comments about that. And really, as Councillor Westgate said, it could cost us a lot of money at the end of the day. So I guess there is a recommendation there, a resolution we could support that basically states that no, we're not in favor of you charging us. Councillor Westgate?
I'll make a motion to support it.
Thank you, Councillor. Seconded by Councillor Manning. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And then we have 0471, and that's the Ontario Senior of the Year. And that's a letter basically just saying that they're looking for nominations. So I guess we've got a little time to put that together. Do we, Madam Clerk? I don't know. I didn't see the timelines on that. I think there's a little bit of time. They just said it. Oh, hardly any time at all. Well, I guess our next meeting isn't, our regular meeting is not till next month. I guess, can we do this, Madam Clerk? If anybody has a recommendation, they could bring it forward, I guess, unless somebody has a recommendation now. I know they don't give us a lot of time on these things. I thought there was more time, so I guess we'll leave it at that. If anybody does have a recommendation, you can let the clerk know, and we can go from there. But again, it makes it tough for us to do it as a council. There's very little time. And to be able to do it in an open format like this too, it makes it tough because there's so many people that deserve it in this community. So maybe we'll leave it at that. And maybe hopefully next year we can be more aware of the timelines. I mean, they just sent this out to us, but is council good with that then? Okay, thank you. Okay, that takes us on to 14, new business. I'm going to back it up here in a second because I see our chief is back with us. But I'm going to deal with the new business first. So we need a mover and a seconder for 14A on the drainage work. Brandon Huckworth. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor Kallenberg. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Morris. All in favor? That's carried. 14B, petition to the drainage works. I need a mover and a seconder for that as well. Who wishes to make that? Counselor Westgate, Counselor Manning, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Now, before we go into the closed session, we have a very pleasant thing to be able to do tonight. And we have Chief Rick Sedlington here today. And Chief Rick Sedlington has given 40 years of service to our community, and we would like to recognize him tonight as well for all those years of service. So maybe what I'll do is, Deputy Mayor, would you assist me with this? I mean, I don't know how we're going to get them on the mic, how we're going to get them on the camera. Can we get Rick to come up?
We could, yeah, he could sit.
Sure. Rick, do you want to come up and sit where Amanda's sitting? And John, we'll get you to come up and move your chair over as well. Hey, Chief, we'll get you to sit down. John, I'm going to give you that, and I'm going to let you pop in here. You got to sit down because the camera won't even catch us short guys. So again, Chief, we're very, very pleased today to be here today to present you with a medal on 40 years of service to our community and to the province of Ontario when it comes to firefighting. 40 years is quite an accomplishment, and we're very proud to have had you here for a lot of years as our chief and a firefighter. And it's our privilege and our pleasure today as council to recognize you for those 40 years. I'm going to ask Deputy Mayor Kallenberg, who was one of your firefighters at one time, to read the plaque and present it to you today. So John, I'll let you take the microphone. And
The second bar to the Fire Services Exemplary Service Medal is awarded to Rick Sedlington in recognition of 40 years of loyal and exemplary service to the public safety in Canada. Congratulations, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Maybe could we get a picture with council and the chief? Is that possible? Maybe if everybody wants to,
If we want to go,
we can do it after. Okay, so. Counselor Manning, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kallenberg, all in favor. Thank you. So to the public, we are now going to be leaving the open portion of our meeting. And we will not be coming back. We'll just be coming up for some housekeeping to clean things up in the sense that moving forward. So thank you very much for viewing.